Welcome back to the Sika Strength news show, obviously brought to you by the Sika Strength app in the link below. Today we've got the strongest brothers in the world, I want to call them. Now, people might argue for the Stoltman brothers, and there's possibly two brothers out in Uzbekistan somewhere who are stronger than everyone, but don't really use social media, and we haven't seen them. But what I will say, strongest favourite pair of brothers for Sika Strength at least. We'll start as his good graces with the older brother, Sam. Sam has something like a 388 kilo deadlift here. So this is a 20-pound all-time PR. I don't think he surpassed that. One of my lifts I really like from him, my lifts is not my lift, my favorite lifts I like, is this 184 kilo strict press from slings or whatever, which you could actually argue is more impressive than the usual strict press strongmen do, where we don't do the little push press. That's a very honest representation of vertical pressing strength. 184 kilos, and we have a recent squat PB here. Now, I said this doesn't count in the comments because the bar is closer to the ground, but it's 750 pounds, which is 350 kilos, maybe more, 360-ish.
That is astronomical.
And wait for this one. I know you haven't seen this one, so I'm going to wow you. 500 pounds, 227.5 kilo behind the neck split jerk.
Yes.
There we go.
Yes.
Now, I think that's a good representation of Sam if you've never seen Sam, okay?
Big, strong dude.
Wait, look at the t-shirt he's wearing. One of the best Republic of Sikistan t-shirts. I promise we'll do one t-shirt run this year. This is 172. Great t-shirt, by the way. Now, let's look at the younger brother, Maxim, or just I assume Max.
Or the 1 rep max.
Or the 1 rep max. If a man can have the name, 372.5 kilo back squat. Look how deep he squats.
Yeah.
You just can't get away from that.
Yeah.
220 kilo bench press. Super easy bench press. It looks like there's a lot more there.
Oh, that's absurdly
that's like,
easy.
There's 240 left.
Yeah.
Now, that's not his best deadlift. I think this is his best deadlift, which is 835, which is 372 or 370-ish.
Okay.
Which isn't bad.
Incredible.
It just isn't too bad. What do you think, Dara?
Momentarily speechless there. Both of these lads are absolute freaks.
Freaks, yeah.
Just talking about Sam here for a sec. Sam's been in the game a long time. Like, if you've been following online strong people for a long time, you've undoubtedly come across Sam. What I really like about him is his movement quality, though. And that is, there's a bunch of really huge dudes out there who are incredibly strong, training for strongman or similar events. But Sam's repeated chasing of good quality movement is something that I'm all about, right? You saw it there with the behind the neck jerk. I think generally speaking in the strongman world, we're seeing more and more emphasis on quality. So looking for the split jerk position rather than just trying to push press something, looking to move weights a small bit more athletically and faster, obviously for the higher level of efficiency, but also just for the longevity in the sport. Being able to do those movements with really good technique allows you to do a hell of a lot more of them, allows you to do them for longer and probably just enjoy the process a little bit more. So that is something, like, we're looking at a video of him overhead squatting and snatching here.
Yep.
How absurd is it that there is an international level strongman doing things like this?
The big thing I want to talk about, and they have a podcast on Sam's channel where they talk about their training and they document a lot of that. And there's 3 things I think you could learn really well from it. So they stick to a plan. They're really consistent with their plan and they're incredibly driven. So what that can mean for you and what you might need to think about for your own training is having a plan is the basis for a lot of this, working for something that makes sense. Sam coaches Max. When you listen to them talk about their training, they're very diligent with blocks. They seem to consistently hit PBs. They seem to have very specific assistance exercises that they hit, and I'm sure they have progressions around that they like hitting. They talk about changing their body weight. They have a plan, and they try and stick to it as consistently as possible. For a lot of people, a lot of times, you see when people use, say, our app, for example, and they run the squat program, which is probably the most popular one. Tens of thousands of people have run, and they hit PBs, and they're like a 20 kilo PB after 8 weeks. And they go, holy shit, I've been stuck on that for 3 years or something like that. But the power of having a good plan, which is the important part of having a good plan, is massive. Then when you stack on top of that, being super consistent with that. So having the best training plan in the world, if you're not consistent with it, if you're not involved with it, and you're not engaging with it consistently and doing what you're supposed to be doing to the best of your ability, is worthless. If you don't do that, you're not going to see the progress. And you think that might sound obvious, but it's so common for people to jump between programs, to stick to them. Again, just talk about our particular experiences. The longer people run our programs, the more they run them, the better they get overall. The longer they run programs on the app consecutively, This all sounds like an ad for the app, but it's really just talking about our experiences with our programs. The better people get, the more you get involved in that system, the more consistently you do it, the better progress you see. And then lastly, the drive part is something that it's hard to pin down. It's not necessarily something where you're being incredibly neurotic. It's not something where you're really loud. We're not talking about arousal here. We're not talking about, high stim, high nicotine, high caffeine, loud music, shouting and roaring before a session, which I'm sure they do at points, but they clearly have a drive and a want between them to hit these particular weights. And it's a thing, the bigger your weights get and the more this will take up of your kind of mental capacity each day and how you think about sessions when you're thinking before them. A lot of times people think, okay, I can manufacture that drive, that I'm going to put on really loud music and I'm going to take a load of pre-workouts every session and I'm just going to train as stupidly and as hard as I can every session. But that's not what drive is. Drive is sticking to the plan and sticking to an intelligent plan and doing it to the best of your ability. And that is acknowledging future gains are important now, and rewarding yourself for those future gains is done by doing the things you're supposed to be doing. That's what that drive is about, is understanding that the work done now is really important for that future, and essentially not having the ability for delayed gratification is part of that drive, and understanding that if you really want to hit those weights, especially when they get bigger or closer to your best genetic potential, you need that drive to have there. And that's something your coach can't really help, but that's an endogenous thing you need to have where you want to do them. And they seem to have a combination of those three. We've been following them for quite a while, and you can really see that whatever this is going on between the two of them, they are very clearly driving each other on. Environment is a big part of that, and who you surround yourself with. It's why elite weightlifting teams and the Bulgarian team were dominant for decades, is they were surrounded by people like the Chinese team of yesteryear, recent years, are surrounded by other people who are super hungry. And when you don't have a chance, because everyone else you're training with is just as driven, people talk about that, oh, I'm not motivated, I'm disciplined. That's bullshit. You are clearly motivated to be disciplined. You just don't have short-term arousal before you go train in the evening. That doesn't mean you're not motivated. If you aren't motivated, you wouldn't do the thing. You want the outcomes. And I think they clearly I get a real sense of this is what they want to be doing, and these are the weights they want to be hitting. And they're going to do it the right way, but they're going to train as hard as they can, which I think makes them for a great people to watch for in terms of entertainment value, and also the fact that they're just lifting massive weights.
Absolutely. The last thing I want to talk about on the two brothers here is this idea of one being before the other, right? So you see it all the time. If you watch the rugby match Ireland were playing in last weekend, two brothers playing on the same team, we see this time and time again. Obviously, there's a genetic component to it. Obviously, if those two parents made one child that was genetically gifted towards a certain level of physical attributes, you're going to get that again with the second kid, or very likely to get that again. But there's also this idea of, I can see further than you because I'm standing on the shoulders of people who came before me. And I have absolutely no doubt what we see here in Max's case is that Sam has gone through the trials and tribulations of powerlifting and strength training and just being massive and lifting big heavy weights. And there is nothing more important in your life as an athlete of having somebody ahead of you who firstly has the knowledge, but secondly has your own respect, who you're going to listen to. Even when no one's talking about following the plan there and having the discipline to follow the plan and sticking to that plan and going and doing it every time, there's nothing better than having an older brother in that case who's going to say, I know this squat cycle will work for you.
Yeah.
I know this is how we're going to get you from 360 to 375 on your back squat or whatever it is. That is incredibly valuable. Something we've talked about before is the idea of following something as if it is gospel, right? So with training cycles, with coaching cues, obviously the individual details of those cues and those training cycles and the minutiae matter, but almost nothing matters more than you following it fully and giving it your absolute best you possibly can. So take, for example, you've 3 sets of 8 at 90% of 1 rep max after 5 weeks of a training cycle. A lot of people will look at that, and if they've never been coached by this coach before, or they've never done this training cycle before, they'll say, how the hell am I going to do that? But if you trust it and you follow it and you do it like tens of thousands of other people have done with the first Road to Anywhere squat cycle, suddenly you end up hitting 3 sets of 8 after 5 weeks of training with around 90% of your 1RM. And now you start to gain that trust. You start to gain that understanding of what you can actually do. And I've absolutely no doubt that that's what's happening with Sam and Max here.
You also can't discount the bullshit an older brother can cut through where with your coach, they might be like, Max, I don't know, should you do that? I have 3 older brothers, and there's definitely points where other people mightn't say to you directly if you're being an idiot, but your older brother can be like, what the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you doing that for? Stop that. You're being an absolute idiot. And there's no one you'll be more annoyed at, but also probably believe more at the time when they say that. You're maybe at a little bit later date when you're less annoyed is, oh yeah, I am being an idiot. Because you trust them, because you've seen them for your whole life. And there's definitely, it's very interesting that an older brother is coaching someone like that. It's such a unique scenario. But, if you look at when couples coach each other, for example, it very rarely works out. But a brother, as brothers coaching siblings, coaching each other, could easily not work out. So I'd be very interested if they're ever just hurling abuse at each other in the gym, which I'm sure would happen.
I'm sure they do.
But you have to, you have to hand it to them, the respects. Max obviously has for his older brother to let him coach.
Yeah.
Because imagine how annoyed you'd be all the time your older
Oh
sibling
my
coaching.
God.
And then the respect, obviously, to say he's been coaching for this long, Sam must have for his younger brother, and the ability just to be, respectful of Max to coach him properly without being an absolute dick. Because he could be.
I think one thing that helps a lot there is how incredibly strong Max has gotten.
Yeah, that would definitely help.
Like, we've been talking about Max on the channel for 2 or 3 years now.
Yep.
Maybe even longer. And just, like, the weights were insane when we started talking about him. But the level of strength he's gotten to with those lifts is just astronomical.
Yep. Remember, Sika Strength app on iOS and Android in the link below. I hope you're enjoying the news show. If there's anything you'd like us to cover, do let us know and we'll have a look.